Good evening, people, ladies and gents.
What up? What up?
Okay, we are the Radio Twins. I'm JJ.
I'm CJ.
And this is the Radio Twins Experience podcast. If you ever wanted to follow us, you will find us on all social media platforms, and they are Facebook, TikTok, Fanbase, Instagram,
Blue
Twitch,
Sky.
Substack, Spill, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Threads.
You name it, we're there.
You follow us, we follow you back. You can also go to our website, which is TheRaydioTwins.com. That's
TheRaydioTwins.com.
You can also check out our apparel line. It's on the same website, which is TheRaydioTwins.com. Look for the tab that says Born to Win Store. And it's a tab, but it's also a website as well. There you can check it out and find socks, hoodies, t-shirts with our logo, which is Born to Win, and then our other logo, which is the Radio Twins. Check us out on our radio show as well, Saturdays at 3 p.m. by going to TheRaydioTwins.com. That's the same website. And this is the Radio Twins Experience podcast, where we discuss people, places, and things in detail.
Yep.
The Radio Twins Experience is where we also interview interesting individuals, because we believe everyone has a story to tell. You experience them just as we do. Experience something new. And tonight, nothing changes. Everything is the same.
Yep.
We just have a different person, a guest. And that guest is none other than,
drum roll, please,
Mr. Rikki Vaughn. Good evening, sir.
Twins. Good evening.
This gentleman is very, very interesting because of, one, not just who he is currently, but his background, his story. This gentleman owns businesses,
several,
and it definitely is no slouch,
right,
at all. Definitely. How did you get? First of all, your upbringing. How did you grow up?
I would say we have that new saying now, the son of Baltimore, right? So I would say that Baltimore story, East Baltimore, born and raised, inner city, off of Harford Road. In the Oliver community, grew up in a household with a mom and a dad and siblings, it was challenging at times. I was fortunate to where I did have a loving mother and a loving father who worked extremely hard to make sure they provided for us. My mom even going to school at nighttime, received her GED, and then went to law school at night while she worked during the day. And when she finished school, then they flipped. My dad went to school during the day, worked at night. And so he landed a state job running child support for the state of Maryland. So a lot of people might have not been too fond of my father, depending on which side of the aisle you were on. But he was the child support enforcement agent for the state of Maryland. And then my mom did corporate practice in the legal world. So, yeah.
Wow. So where do you think you got your spirit from?
They always say that entrepreneurship, it skips certain generations. My grandmother actually was one of the first. I'm sorry, my great grandmother was one of the first Blacks to own a restaurant off of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Granny's Kitchen. So surprisingly, a restaurant right off of Pennsylvania Avenue. And so I would probably say it goes back in generations in my family. I will say it's out of my siblings, I'm probably the only one who went into the direction of restaurants. But my dad was a hard worker. I mean, he worked at one point. I remember he worked for the state of Maryland, Baltimore Gas and Electric, and a store off of Charles Street on the overnight. I would say it came probably from my parents as well. But yeah, I would say I keep it simple. Came from my parents. They work hard. I try to work hard.
Listening to how you were saying your mom and your dad, we see where you get the drive. That's
very
evident.
impressive.
Very impressive. Um, I see that you said, "Are you homeless to homeowner?" At one point.
Yeah, I usually I have a quick stand. So from a high school dropout to graduated magna cum laude from Hampton University to an MBA to law school, and I just got my IRB approval last week for my dissertation in a PhD program. So I am gathering my data, and I will be defending my dissertation come this fall. So
Wow.
hopefully, I ain't gonna say hopefully I claim it. So it'll be Dr. Rikki Vaughn, PhD in Public Policy and Administration, come January, February of next year. So I'd say that high school dropout to PhD candidate, from homeless to multiple home owner, from minimum wage worker at McDonald's to proud owner operator of 100+ restaurants and businesses, and from convicted of a felony at the age of 18 to good trouble at the age of 40ish. So
Wow. That's impressive. That's like totally impressive. What when you went from that to what we have now, what I don't even know how to put it into a question. Like that was motivation because some people stay on that bad track and not want to go to the good one. Mm-hmm. That
It, coming from a background myself, recently becoming a doctor myself, in business management, entrepreneurship, and finance. Um, some
salute, salute.
Thank you, thank you. When they say there's a certain percentage that have those degrees, those tutorial degrees, what made you want to say, "Hey, I want to get into this"?
So I'm gonna be real with you. The first of all, congrats, Doc. The one of the challenges that we face in that industry from an education standpoint is um, less than 3% of the population have PhDs,
Right.
and less than 2/10 of that population are African American men.
Mhm.
A very small portion, right, when you're looking at it from an education standpoint. But what prompted me to kind of continue my education, I never felt like I was the smartest person in the room. I didn't want to be the smartest person in the room. But at some point, especially growing up and folks kind of talking about you and talking down on you, I felt like I didn't belong sometimes. And so the part of me encouraging myself was to do what others said can't be done, right? Folks said that you can't get a GED without going through the prep classes. Oh, I got my GED. Folks
hey,
said that you couldn't run a McDonald's restaurant at 18 years old. They don't promote 18-year-old store managers. Well, I was 18 as a store manager running a $3 million store. So I've always, folks said you couldn't be a vice president, until you get to 35 or 40. I became a vice president at 25. So I always wanted to do what folks said could not be done. So when folks said you couldn't graduate from you couldn't go to college because you didn't have a GED, and so I just kept on going, right? I learned to have, or I gained passion as I was continuing my education. And I told one of my friends years ago, we were joking. He was in med school, I was in law school, and I said, "You gonna call me doctor soon?" And he was like, "Nah, man. Like you can't do it. You're running over 140 restaurants, and you're trying to get a doctorate degree." He was like, "Yeah, man." He said, "Look, I'm your boy. We grew up together, but I'll be the first one to tell you that that's impossible." And that was 4 years ago. And come January, he's going to have to address me as Dr. Rikki Vaughn.
yeah, that's the good thing. And and the reason why we chose you as an individual because of this. A lot of like that last story you told. It's that's a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't think that we would make it, one, through high school, two, through college,
Hmm.
and here we are now. And do you see with the not to bring because I definitely don't. With the current administration and you being successful with your business, do you see yourself or any of your businesses being affected drastically?
I would say, unfortunately, well, fortunately, we haven't come to that point yet. I have seen some shift and change, and pretty much all of my businesses, to be honest. I mean, when Popeyes, we have poultry, right? We have the chicken prices and poultry going up. Dunkin' Donuts, which is probably the most challenging of all the brands, is because we put tariffs on coffee and we get coffee from Africa and Brazil and those folks. So we are facing or seeing kind of a slight shift, but I will give some credit to the brands out there. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts have done a great job in securing pricings, years in advance, right? So we haven't felt it as much, but if we keep on this unfortunate trend and pattern, we will. I mean, operators are already facing some challenges when it comes to labor costs and expenses when it comes to the restaurant industry. On top of that, when you're looking at it from a maintenance and repair standpoint, we got trade individuals fixing products and they got to go get material, and when you got 100% tariffs on material that we're getting from China, it of course drive their prices up. So yeah,
Mm.
we're starting to see it shift a little, but I keep it in prayer, and I'm fortunate it haven't impacted me at a disadvantage yet.
Well, listening to your background, I sense that I kind of figured you wouldn't look at this as uh, what's the word? I don't want to say conclusion, but an ailment in sorts. If anything, you look at this such as everything else that you've seen in your life as a goal, and that the goal that you're going to achieve without even thinking you're going to achieve it, but it just kind of works out that way. Are you always on that level where you're continually?
There's another one.
Oh, are you always in of that like? Do you ever turn it off? Is it something that just comes naturally to you, or do you just stay on that mode? Like, I don't want to say 24/7, but it's just something that you do.
I would say it's just something I do. I try to stay positive, right? My dad taught me growing up. He had a saying, "Every day is a good day. Some days are just better." And
Hmm.
no matter how rough, how hard you think you have it, someone else have it worse, right? Then he always reminded me that if you wake up with no dirt on you, you're starting off pretty good. So I try to have more of a positive look on everything. I do believe everything happens for a reason. I was fortunate even when COVID hit. COVID hit, a lot of my counterparts was closing restaurants down. We were buying more restaurants. Today, I can make it public now. My wife and I just celebrated uh, purchasing 2 additional daycare centers. We purchased one last week, and we closed on the other one today. So, from her story of being homeless and sleeping in the car to now owning 3 daycare centers. And one of the centers that we purchased today, 207 kids, which is one of the largest. So, we just keep the hustle. We keep pushing, right? It's I heard the mayor of Baltimore, a good friend of mine, Brandon, say, a few months back that once Baltimore goes strong, you can't stop us, right?
Right.
We're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep driving. He got some criticism because he said that Baltimore, we hustle. And folks always like to change the narrative and say, yeah, that's what Black people always. It is a hustle. Life is a hustle, regardless of the color of your skin, your gender, your religion, background. It's a hustle out there. One of the reasons why we expanded into multiple restaurants because everybody was like, why would you do Sonic and Popeyes and Dunkin' Donuts and Marco's Pizza? And I've always had that hustle in me. Like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. We just got finished talking about it. Coffee prices go up. I don't see people paying $10 for a cup of coffee. So why would I put all my eggs in that basket? Well, I shift over and I go to chicken. Right now, I'll be hurt if I'm getting impacted on chicken, coffee, burgers, all those right at the same time. But the point of it is just have that hustle out there. When my wife introduced the daycare, and I can't call them daycare. She likes to call them their development learning centers.
I
When
like
she
that.
when she introduced that to me, it was, different. It was like, wow, what's this, right? So, but again, you have challenges with that because the government is on freeze. Well, a lot of the kids are on, vouchers and programs like that. So that money's not coming in, right? So, you have a risk factor in everything that we do, pretty much. But if you keep that hustle, if you keep that positive attitude, I hate to bring religion in it because so folks are so touchy. But if you keep whatever your creator is faith in the loop of that, then it works out for your good.
Definitely. It's weird. I won't say it's weird, but as you were talking, the one that clicks to me is may he rest in peace. Coach Butch McAdams used to always say equally yoked, and I believe it sounds like you and your wife are equally yoked. One of the things that also caught me is you have a passion to serve, and me personally, I've seen it. So, but it's like it's instilled in you.
Will that always be a thing with you where you're always back, always serving, regardless of whatever it is that you might be going through?
It is. I believe we have a purpose. We, as we get older, I believe, one, we have not only an obligation, but a responsibility to serve and to pull someone up, right? I got my start because uh, I met a husband and wife, franchisee in McDonald's, who believed in me. Uh, I was an 18-year-old felon. I was a high school dropout. These folks had a $5 million business, but somehow trusted that I was the right candidate to help them get to the next level in their business journey, right? And so, when she encouraged me to go back, her and my mom, to get my GED and to go on to college and so on. One of the things I got from that was we have to make sure that we're uplifting folks too. I've always said that being a franchisee, being an owner, a business owner, is a great privilege, it's a great honor, but comes with a great responsibility. I should not be looking just to go get the best fancy car out there and the biggest house. Part of my purpose should be is to educate the next generation on financial management, on how to get into whether it's stocks. One of the things that we do in our organization is when we interview and we hire folks, we talk about their professional development and growth, and we talk about their personal. So if folks say that they want to be a nurse, as a business owner, I don't take offense to that, right? You can still come work for me, even if it's short term, right? Use this as a stepping stone. But if your goal is to be a nurse, well, guess what? We got a whole bunch of friends at John Hopkins that are nurses and doctors. So we have a program the way they link up with, whether it's an attorney. We worked with uh, 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 Wendell Gordon. We worked with Warren Brown, Chrissy Needleman years ago when she was practicing. We worked with Kenneth Revenall when he was practicing. I mean, we work with a lot of attorneys, judges, Judge Vicky Watts in Baltimore County. So we work with folks and partnering them with, in their programs so they can, hey, you want to be a nurse? Go to John Hopkins, spend 2 days down there. Two things come from that. One, they say, you know what? This nursing is not the field for me. Or what they do is they come back and say, I appreciate you for making that connection, right? Because that's part of life in this journey too, and hustle is making those connections.
Mm-hmm. Now, you for a moment, as far as serving, you went into politics. What pushed you to do it?
I get that question a lot. And the answer I give is not always the most political answer and is not the answer folks would expect. I got into politics simply because I didn't see us. And what I mean by us, I'm going to define it. I didn't see us as minorities. I
Right.
didn't see us as young adults. I didn't see us as young Black men getting into politics and serving and representing. But I saw us, young Black men, millennials, minorities, complaining about legislation and complaining about laws. So part of me getting in was just really to do a couple of things. One, encourage young folks to not only, get out there and campaign and support folks running for office, but get out there and run yourself. So that was one stage of it. The other part of it was I didn't feel like we were being heard or we were being fairly represented, right? When you see a lot of these backdoor deals and you see how the law is manipulated for some folks, but do not work for other folks. It's very concerning, or was very concerning, and still is concerning to me. So that's the reason why I got into politics. Many know I use my own financials behind it. It wasn't to try to buy an office or anything like that. It was just simply where, especially in the city of Baltimore, we can't continue to say we're a city without any money, but yet we keep going out there trying to get money to run for office and taking money out of communities. So I wanted to kind of reinvest back and redefine what a politician should look like and do, which is reinvesting back in the community.
What did you learn from that experience?
To not run again. No, I'm joking. It's
The
no,
outright.
no, I learned actually a lot, right? My first run for public office was uh, probably a more than I could chew, right? It was running for United States Senate. 36 years old, I ran for that office, and I was able to meet a lot of folks. I met Ben Senator Ben Cardin. I met Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I mean, so it was great connections that I was able to meet a lot of good folks. Um, but I would say one of the things that I learned is to keep pushing, right? Whether I'm exploring some different avenues right now in the political arena, but I learned one, you don't have to have a title as a representative to still serve your community, right? You can still serve your community as a business owner. You can still serve your community as a neighbor. You can still serve your community as an activist, right? So you don't have to have delegate or mayor or congressman associated with your name to really get out there and serve the public.
I just personally, I want to say thank you, because that whole process of you running, um, just watching you is meaning to me like it was motivation. If I know if it motivated me, it motivated others to say, you know what, let me get up off my behind and start doing something, especially for the community. So,
And
And it was great. It was, I will honestly say, it was one of the best experiences. The U.S. Senate race was a little challenging because, of course, you're traveling, all over the state. Uh, when I ran for mayor, and both, a lot of folks say, well, why didn't you follow through with it? And I don't know if a lot of people knew the story. So when I ran for U.S. Senate, my brother got gunned down in Baltimore. And so that's why I suspended my campaign for United States Senate. He got shot in the same area we grew up in. So East Baltimore on Lafayette, where Landville was.
sorry to hear.
And so I suspended the campaign. The news covered it, and was like, hey, we got a senatorial candidate who, unfortunately, family fell victim, right? And then when I ran for mayor, my dad passed away. Of course, the mayoral race we had, that was during COVID and everything else. So my dad passed away of pneumonia. We had COVID hit, and so I wanted to kind of be there with my family. And then also I had to make sure that my restaurants, because that was my business, I had to make sure that they were still meeting the expectations of the brand and the expectations of me and my company. So that's why I suspended that campaign, to focus on family and get back out there in the community.
Now, if you had to, with as far as businesses, what would you say is the hardest thing that you have to do? Is it the upkeep? Is it, employees? I mean, what's the hardest?
So I break businesses down. I started a book that I'm working on, but I call business the 5 Ps: people, product, processes, planning, profitability.
But say that
The
again.
uh, people, product, processes, planning, profitability.
Okay.
So, and if you look at it, it's in that order, right? First is people, whether it's external or internal. That's always going to be the most rewarding for me, and it's also going to be the most challenging one for me, right? Sometimes you see folks that you see all of the gifts and talent and skills in them, but they don't believe in themselves. And so sometimes you got to part ways with individuals, because one of the things I had to learn early on was I have a responsibility. We have roughly 5,600 and some employees on my last payroll. So roughly 5,600 employees. So I have a responsibility and the obligation of 5,600 families and not just one family. And so sometimes that is the most challenging, because I got to part ways with an individual. And you never want that, right? Again, I come from those humble beginnings. I know how it is sleeping across from Ricestown Plaza on a park bench and washing up at Cat's Insurance with a water hose behind their building. So, I understand that, what God giveth, he can easily take it away. So you always want the best for folks. And you do have that, you should have that compassion in your heart that you want to see people succeed. And, I never, take pride in going to someone and saying, hey, this is your last day, right? Especially around holidays. That's kind of the kicker for me. I'm the biggest Christmas person in the world. And so, especially around holidays when folks should be sitting down celebrating and feasting together, but now they got to take bad news to that family. So we're very cautious in our organization to make sure that we try to exhaust all possibilities before it gets to that point. But that's probably the most challenging part of the business. The upkeep, no, not really. It can be a burden sometimes from an expense standpoint, especially when you're a franchisee and you have to remodel your stores every 7 to 10 years. But for the most part, I call that the cost of doing business.
Okay. Well, because of my background in business, and I really I couldn't wait for this particular interview because I wanted to pick your brain about some stuff dealing with business. I'm in a situation now where I want to move. I feel uncomfortable, and that's just me saying, "Hey, I have time to grow." Yet, I really don't have an avenue. What would you suggest to someone like me who they want to do something big or do something in another lane or possibly an additional lane? What would you say to them?
I would encourage you, if you so one, I would always tell someone, make sure you do your research, right? Especially when you're expanding your business. That was one of the hurdles that I had to overcome. It was easy managing, stores in Baltimore, right? Had two on Light Street, then I had two in Baltimore County. So it was kind of easy to manage four locations that's within an hour commute. But when you start crossing state lines and start crossing into national brands, right? My stores cover 8 states. We go as far as, or we went as far as South Dakota with Dickey's Barbecue, uh, up to Ohio with Popeyes, and then down to Florida with Dunkin' Donuts and with Checkers and Marco's Pizza, and then expanded over into Texas. So always I would say look at the research and make sure that it's a manageable portfolio, right? Some folks do it differently. They just buy, and invest because their strategy is to exit in 5 years. Mine has never really been to grow the business to exit. One of the things that I did with Subway was I sold all of my Subways to the store managers, and I financed them in house. So, it's one of those who are like, you know what, you guys stuck in there with me. But I would say do the research, make sure that you have a structure within your organization that can kind of manage different avenues.
Mm.
And then the last thing I would always encourage folks is make sure you have a passion for it, right? A lot of people, they come up to me and say, I want to own a restaurant. Are you passionate about restaurants? Because if you're not passionate about it, don't think you're going to walk in the door and become a millionaire tomorrow, right? You got to be passionate about it. It's that point where the passion and the purpose helps with the financial stability in a way. Because if you wake up every day and be like, oh God, I gotta go into this store today, oh, I gotta go into this business, it's not going to be fun. So it's not really going to be worth it anymore, right? So that's what I would encourage folks to look at.
If you had to, what was the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
The best piece of advice I've ever gotten, and I still use it to today, is no matter how broke you are, when you get in business, have a good lawyer and a good accountant. Those are the two. Uh, you do not want to get into issues when it comes to legality about slip and falls in your restaurant or EEOC claims, to not having your business structured right. Right, a lot of folks don't know, like uh, each of my restaurants. So a lot of people say, how many businesses do you own? So on paper, we own 146 businesses, right? Because each business entity has their own LLC, their own little corporation. And then you have a management company that oversees your corporation, right? And then you have a directing, or what I call it, umbrella, the partner, the board that oversees your management company, right? As a business owner, you want to have multiple layers before it gets to you.
Right.
I go into restaurants nowadays, and some people still don't know that I'm the owner, and I am okay with that. When I only own one store, I wanted everybody to know I was the owner. But it's kind of like when you become a parent, right?
Right.
That first child, I want everybody to know I'm a parent. When you start having 4 or 5 kids, you be like, all right, if they know I'm your dad, then that's good. But if not, hey, just it is what it is. And it's
That's
the same in business.
that's a
Yeah.
good idea to have where no one knows that
Yeah.
you are the boss. That works out lovely. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but that's perfect. That I would love to run a business like that. What's the
Well,
biggest?
if you remember, even when I ran for public office, no one knew of Rikki Vaughn. I think that's really what the surprise was to Baltimore, right? You had a few folks like Brandon, Senator Corey McCray, folks that I grew up around and met over time. They knew that, yeah, this guy owned some Dunkin' Donuts and at that time KFCs. But no one really knew that, right? Because I didn't really advertise that. I didn't go out and say, what I owned, and so no one really knew. And to be honest, it really only came out when I got involved, as you guys may know, with the protests in Baltimore County. And when they started doing research, is kind of when it came out that a black guy from Baltimore was a franchisee and owned different brands. But I've just never been like that. And again, part of that is because of what I shared earlier, as far as humble beginnings. I'm a firm believer that God giveth, He can taketh away, right? So I do not take that for granted. And at the end of the day, I'm old school. Also, I can care less what the title say, as long as my check cash at the bank. I'm a happy camper.
Right. Exactly. So, what's the biggest misconception about you?
I would say, um, that's a good one. I don't even know how to answer that. I know folks, when you don't tell your story, they try to create stories.
Hmm.
And so, I know at one point, folks said, well, do he really own and operate, different businesses in different states? Where did he get his money from? It was, he got his money from the streets. It was like, dude, I've never been in the streets. So, I don't know. It's I will say this, for someone who grew up in the inner city, and I was surrounded, with a lot of, acquaintance. I've never gotten into the marijuana scene, never smoked weed, never smoked cigarettes, never drunk. Still don't drink. Me and my wife, we just celebrated a year, and we were gonna have alcohol there, but thank you, but we didn't drink. So my wife was like, why are we spending all this money on drinks and we don't drink, right? So I don't know. That's a very hard question. I know folks are still trying to figure who I am out, because one of the things I campaigned on was, watch and see how many people stay relevant even when they don't win or when the election is over.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things I kind of campaigned on. I said, everybody show up. Where did you come from? Do you even live in Baltimore? So one of the things I wanted to do was keep my promise and commitment. So I stayed relevant. I'm not as active on social media as I was, and that's simply because I wanted to do some things private. We're working with some folks, my wife and I now, behind the scenes on helping them get ready for some campaign launches. And these are folks that I met at Morgan State, at Coppin, at Towson when I was campaigning. And so we're doing a lot of behind the scenes things. But that's a good question. I gotta get back with you on that one.
Now we have this thing where we call it's like the winning answer, And what we do is we give you the statement and you fill in the blank with the first thing that comes to mind. There's
Right.
nothing crazy, so you don't have to worry about that.
Nothing too crazy.
All right, here we go. I could have never predicted
that I would meet the most beautiful business partner, wife, friend that I have, my soulmate.
much respect. Respect.
Well, this next question or statement may just fall right into that one. The key to happiness is
A good partnership, business and personally. So yes, I can truly say I'm happy compared to where I was years and years ago.
You will never regret.
I would never regret going into business.
Okay.
but you might wish you had
Spent more time with my kids. The parenting.
Okay. Okay. The biggest risk I ever took was
Getting married again.
okay. Never be impressed by
Money, flashy cars, the material items that folks idolize.
wow. I hope people will remember me most for
Encouraging, empowering, and embracing young adults.
we need a lot more of that.
Yeah, we do.
That's the truth.
I have one more question. So how if you're already involved in it, how long do you think it's going to be before you finish that book?
The goal that we put was for summer of 2026. Part of the challenge that might have to fall back to winter of 2026 just because of the PhD for the dissertation.
Okay.
Cool. So definitely we want to say thank you for taking the time out to be interviewed by us. We have the utmost respect for you. What you've done up until this point.
Yes.
And I'm sure more when you become a doctor, because that's going to happen. That for sure.
I'm really impressed by that because it despite the fact I don't even look at it as such. Every time there's certain conversations we're in, he brings up the fact that I have my degree more than anything because it's more so like, okay, it's the title. Next. And I just feel like I'm like everybody else. So
right. I'll get mine soon.
So I'm gonna say this. I definitely salute and definitely you got my support when you get yours. We claim that you already have that, but I will say one of my professors told me shared this with me. Actually, my committee chair shared it with me, and she said, a lot of people don't know how to adapt, but she said you earned it. A doctor degree is not a easy, but you know what? First of all, the GED test was hard. Graduating, magna cum laude was hard. Getting my MBA was hard. But nothing prepares you really for the necessary steps it takes to get your doctorate degree, right? You got to go through IRB, you got to go through a chair. I mean, it's like all the countless hours that you invest in 300, word papers, right? Or 300 page papers that you're writing and developing to send it into your committee and then to get all this red marks on it, right? So, and sometimes it can be discouraging. And then in our worlds, you're trying to balance business and life and financials and all of that. So, my wife said, don't expect me to call you doctor. And I was like, no, you ain't gotta call me doctor. You just gotta call me doctor, husband. So, so it is definitely, it's one of those things when I first started the journey, it was like, all right, I just want to be able to go places. And, if I'm at the airport, they'd be like, Dr. Rikki Vaughn, please come up, so and so I was like, all right, you know what? Now I'm over that. But now, no, I'm sorry. I'll say this, and I know you guys got to go. No one. What I try to tell my staff is know your value and know your worth. It's not an easy accomplishment to becoming to have your doctorate, right? So if you don't value that, and you don't value the time and the financials that you invested into that, who else will? So when I walk out and I go into 7-Eleven and they say, Rikki, no, it's Dr. Rikki, can I get my Slurpee? Because you've earned it, right? That's something that you've earned. So, if we don't know our worth, no one else will ever value us.
Definitely. That is so true.
Well, I can honestly say I was, like I said before, like I was really looking forward to this interview because, again, when he told me a couple years ago he had a few businesses, but I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, he's an entrepreneur to some extent. But then to hear how much you've gained and what you've done, and I'm just like blown away, because it's like I always like to just pick the brain of someone who has multiple situations as you do, and kind of more so figure out what your mentality was to stay on that road, to continue on that road, and still prospering by even doing more. So I applaud you on that.
Definitely.
I applaud you on
Definitely.
Thank you. While you applaud me, I applaud my staff. I tell everybody all the time, I couldn't do what I do. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for 16, 17, 18-year-olds waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going into my restaurants and working until midnight. So I try to take care of them, and because they took care of me. So thank you. And I applaud you too as well. I've been a fan of y'all's for the longest. So when my staff told me that I was going to be on your show, I felt like coming to America. I ain't know whether to break dance or what. But no, I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate the welcome on your show. So, or the guest to be on your show.
It's crazy because we really weren't thinking about doing anything like this. But when the pandemic hit,
A friend of ours suggested it,
and his name is Billy Live. He was like, "Well, why don't you sit down and interview people like you do on our radio show?" And we were like, "We never thought of
like
that
us.
and he was like, "Yeah,
right,
happen." And
Well,
every doing it,
we've like enjoyed
people like it. People,
right.
We enjoy it. People, but we didn't want to be the ordinary podcast interviewing crazy people talking about things that really didn't. Figured one to call it experience, meaning you're experiencing what we see, and we see that there's a businessman and people like you with an interesting background,
and everybody has a story,
right?
I mean, good or bad, but everyone has a story, and someone can learn from that story regardless of how it ends up or what's going on through it. So
yeah, definitely.
It can be a great run, a great journey. I will tell you, a lot of folks they see the Rikki today, right? They see the fancy cars and the houses, and everybody they love my wedding ring that I don't have on because it's over there and I don't feel like walking. And so, but they don't see the struggles that it took to get to that, right? When I was riding around Baltimore in that certain car, everyone's like, oh yeah, what he does, but it was like, you don't know what I went through to get to where I'm at now. One of the challenges that I still face to today is, I do miss my family a lot. I still travel a lot. I was in Baltimore all last week. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't in Baltimore all last week. I was in Baltimore half of the week. And then I flew from Baltimore to Texas for 3 days. And then I flew back to Baltimore. Then I went to Georgia. I'm in Georgia, and then tomorrow I'm going to be headed to Florida. So I'll be in Florida for a couple of days. So it's a lot of travel that comes with this responsibility. And you do miss some of your kids' activities and some family events. But again, I always try to balance it because I'm like, you know what, I might miss. My wife teased me all the time. She's like, "Oh, how can you forget that date?" I was like, "Look, I know the day my kids was born. Now in the years, they all start running together." But again, it's just it is a balance, but it is a huge responsibility to kind of get out and travel. My sister teased me all the time. She'd be like, "All right, what part of the country you in today?" And even when I talked to her earlier today, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be driving to Florida in the morning at 4 o'clock." And so it's challenging, but it's rewarding also, especially knowing that in our businesses, we're able to help folks be first-time homeowners, go out and, put their kids in college. And so, that's the rewarding part about the job.
Another topic for me to look out for is the homeowner part of it. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if there's, because we know you said you weren't really on social media like that, but if someone wanted to get in contact with you for, let's say, a job or advice, because it seems like you've gone through a lot and you know the ins and outs of certain things,
Right.
how can they get in contact with you?
So we have our website that's down for maintenance because I have an exploratory committee out there, but it's rikkyvaughn.com. But in the meantime, you can call my office, 443-515-9100. Or you can reach me on social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram. I may not be on there, but I do have a team that kind of manages my social media platform. They check messages daily, respond back to messages as well. And ironically, we are hiring. We are hiring in the Florida market. We are hiring in Georgia. I am looking for another administrative assistant because I'm continuing to grow. We are looking for teachers, as well. So, and then I believe we are hiring we're hiring in Texas and we're hiring in Ohio. So,
Okay.
yeah. So we're always hiring.
And definitely wanted to say thank you to you, administrator, handling the setting up of this.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to feel like I'm bombarding anybody. I was just like, okay,
And after hearing as much as you do, we're just like, okay, we really love the fact that you took the time out to interview with us.
Definitely.
Absolutely. She gets mad at me sometimes because she be trying to do my schedule and I'll be randomly, putting stuff on it. And what's challenging now is that, my wife is also a business owner. And so trying to manage both of our schedules to where, we do date night. So although I do all this travel, we do date night every single week. We were in Baltimore last week. We went out and got some crabs at Costa Inns. So we do date night at least one, wherever we're at, we'll fly, drive to each other and have one night of date night. So that was the commitment. My wife said, as long as you give me one night a week, the other 6 nights, go do your thing. So
definitely. Well, again, thank you for taking the time out to interview us. Of course, I'm JJ.
I'm CJ.
And this is the Radio Twins Experience podcast. If you ever wanted to follow us on all social media platforms, we are on Facebook, TikTok for a limited time because of who owns it now, Fanbase, Instagram, Twitch, Substack, Spill, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even Threads. You follow us, we follow you back.
Yep.
You can also go to our website, which is
TheRaydioTwins.com, TheRaydioTwins.com.
You can check us out on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Just go to the same website, TheRaydioTwins.com, and listen to our radio show. Experience something new with us, the Radio Twins, in the Radio Twins experience. Thank you, Mr. Rikki, for taking the time out. And, well, let me rephrase that. Thank you, Dr. Rikki Vaughn.
We speaking at you.
I appreciate it.
You said you were through IRB or you're getting ready to be done with that?
No, I'm through IRB.
Okay,
cool.
Yes,
I hate
through.
Oh, I hated that.
IRB, yes. I got the letter the other day saying it was finalized. So
congrats, dude.
So now I'm working on chapters 4 and 5.
Oh wow.
Congrats.
Again, thank you again, Dr. Rikki Vaughn.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.